I can say comfortably and confidently that you guys are really starting to do the job. You really are. Not only do we have probably about 9 or 10 hundreds in the class, maybe even more, maybe 12, but we also have progress. With maybe 2 or 3 exceptions, every person went up on today's quiz. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to come in every day and say to yourself, where did I go wrong? What do I need to correct? So I'm going to take us through this particular quiz problem because this quiz because we did have issues pretty much all over the place. There wasn't a dominant question where it was like everybody missed. For most questions, most people got them right. It's just that there were little mistakes of varying types made with many different questions. So the first one says to solve for x, 10x minus 1 is 19. And there were some people who got this wrong. And the biggest thing I noticed is if you got it wrong, it tended to be the case that you copied it down a little bit wrong. Listen, can every row here move back about a foot? Thank you. Okay. So let's take a look at the first one here. We're going to add 1 to both sides. This is your standard two-stepper. This is like the very fundamental, rudimentary kind of question that we have to get right every time. Kill that, because we always attack the plus or minuses first. 10x equals 20. Now, some people, they just wrote 9 instead of 19. 1 or 2 people did that. That obviously, that doesn't mean you don't know how to do the question. It means you made a careless mistake, and we can correct that in time. So x is equal to 2. Now, you know what you understand better than I do. If you don't understand that question, without a doubt, you have to be in extra help this Thursday. Tomorrow, or library tonight. That is the simplest question we will ever come across in this chapter. And if you cannot do that question the way I just showed, and Alan, I know you get those right, but are you doing it the way I just showed?
I do it my way.
Yeah, your way is not going to work anymore.
Okay.
It'll work on that. But you tried to do it your way on the next one, and A, it took a lot longer than necessary, and B, you got it wrong. So we need to, by the next one, I'm sorry, I mean numbers 3 and 4. We need to develop a strategy. We need to look at things a particular way until we can get them correct. All right, now, number 2, and Alan, this is what surprised me, because you tried the same guess and check stuff on number 4, and number 4 is just like number 2.
Oh.
And yet you did number 2 the correct way. So it's not like you can't do it. You just chose to not even go there. Look, this is the same side situation because the 2 ends and the 3 ends are on the same side. That has to be, when you look at one of these, you have to be asking yourself, is this the same side situation? Is it an opposite side? Is it a distribute? And then you adjust your technique according to what you see presented in front of you. 2 ends plus 3 ends, they're on the same side. By that we mean the same side of the equal sign. So I do the same operation. 5n minus 5 is 20. Add 5 to both sides. 5n equals 25. Divide by 5. N equals 5. Okay? Any questions? Okay. So now we go up to numbers 3 and number 4. And as we take a look at these, there are 2 things that we want you, that I'm looking for you to understand the difference between these 2. The first thing is, can you tell if it's opposite side or same side? And I believe every single person in the class was able to tell if it was same side or opposite side. Maybe 1 didn't, maybe 2, but I don't think so. I think everybody got this right. Then the next step, it's not enough to be able to just say, is it same side or is it opposite side? Then, can you do the right strategy based on what it is that they're showing you? So, we take a look at this. First off, here's my wall down the middle. Is this the same side or an opposite side situation? Opposite. So I think everybody wrote opposite on the blank. That looked good. Now the question is, how do we do this? Opposite side?
Opposite operation.
Opposite operation. Now this 2n here, we always want to start with the lesser number of the variable. You don't have to, but I just find it makes it a little easier. That's a positive 2n, so I have to do opposite, and I go minus 2n. 7n's and negative 2n's, or 7n minus 2n is the same thing. 5n minus 5 equals danger, danger, danger. What's the dangerous thing right now? What's the dangerous thing, guys? Come on, what kind of 25 is this? Negative. So you have to put negative 25 here. I believe 2 or 3 of you put positive 25. And that led to issues. Okay, next up, add 5 to both sides. Now it looks like a standard two-stepper. 5 equals negative 20 divided by 5, and is negative 4. Okay? Now, Alan.
Got it wrong.
Yeah, what Alan did was Alan tried, see, here's the problem. It's a blessing and a curse. I believe this, you know, like, I can be really hard-headed, extremely stubborn, and I never give up. Now, when I was young, my parents had to deal with that. I mean, I was not an easy kid to raise in any way, shape, or form. And I really, looking back, I feel terrible for my parents, what they had to put up with from me. Now, that same curse from when I was young is now really, really good, because there have been things that have happened in my life. We went through some really tough times on things, and I never, ever, ever give up. So the lessons learned in my youth have helped me now. You have a curse too. Your curse is that you're a pretty bright kid, and you can do math in your head a lot. So you start going through these numbers in your head, and when you got a simple two-step equation, you could look at it and crunch the numbers in your head and figure it out and just put the answer down. By the way, a lot of people got correct answers on numbers 1 and 2 and didn't show any work because you did it in your head. If you were like that, you lost points. You have to show work on these quizzes, okay? So you could do it on that, but now they're starting to get more complicated, and you will see over the next few days, these equations are going to get progressively more complicated. If you learn the techniques, they're easy. But if you try to do them in your head, they're impossible. So learn these techniques. They're on opposite sides, so you look for the smallest number of n's, and you do opposites. That says 2n, you do minus 2n. 5n minus 5 is negative 25. Now the numbers are on opposite sides, so I do opposites. Minus 5 plus 5. Plus 5 there, I get negative 20. Divide by 5, n is negative 4. Okay? Now again, I don't want, sometimes I think I know things and I realize afterwards I'm wrong. When it comes to anticipating how many people will be able to do certain questions, a lot of times I'll say to myself, oh, everybody's going to get that right. And I'll realize a lot of people got it wrong because it was different than I thought it would be or harder than I thought it would be. But I can tell you now, I just graded your quizzes. Man, tons of people in the class are getting this right. How many people got this question right? Put your hands up.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
All right? You guys, I'm sorry. Put your hands up again. Now, everybody got 100 yesterday. Put your hands up.
Who got it?
All right? Or everybody, either one. If you got it right today, or if you got 100 yesterday, put your hands up. Jason, you got 100 today. You had to get it right. All right, so we're looking at about 2/3 to 3/4 of the class. So if you didn't get it right, it means you can get it right. You just can't sit there and say to yourself, I can't do it. You know, that's something that you really have to toughen up on. I was a little kid. I got hit by a car, whole bunch of knee operations. At one point, my right leg was almost 4 inches shorter than my left leg. My leg was bent crooked. I walked down the hall like I had cerebral palsy. It was ugly. And the truth of the matter is that if a doctor didn't step in and do a whole bunch of surgeries on my knees to correct my knee, he said I was absolutely headed for a wheelchair. And there was a point where they said to me that I might not walk again. They had to cut my hip out, they had to put it in my knee, they had to keep breaking my left leg over and over again. It was a really involved situation. So when I went through this sort of stuff, I remember being in New York City pretty much alone. My dad would visit me most days because he worked in the city. I never saw my mom, never saw my sisters, never saw any other relatives. And I remember having to walk down, you know what parallel bars are for like gymnastics?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember they would set the height, and then I would have to put one hand on one hand, and I'd have to like walk my foot forward and walk the other foot forward. And I spent months and months and months in rehab. And I remember how painful it was, and I remember how difficult it was. But when you go through that sort of thing, you develop in you this mindset that says you are not going to be denied, you are not going to be stopped. That's why every day when you come in here, I always say, hey, whose life is it? In whose interest is it that you learn this stuff? It's not my interest. I retire in a little over 3 years. I get to go home and do a whole lot of fishing, a whole lot of photography, play with the dogs, and go to church. I'm going to be a really happy guy. You guys have the rest of your lives in front of you. This is for you that you learn this stuff. And sometimes the pain comes in the form of working out your legs. And sometimes the pain comes in the form of going and doing your homework. But you got to find a way to get it done. I'll tell you another one. I'm staring at me. I told you guys I'm getting my knees replaced. We're all going back to that surgeries when I was a kid. But my shoulder's shot now. I have arthritis in my shoulder. I can feel it. Everything I do, I feel my shoulder. Everything. All day long. Every day. And when you get your knees operated on and you get them replaced, you really can't walk on them for a while. I talked to Mrs. Pickford. She had one knee done, let alone two. Said it took her 11 days to be able to walk. Now, they start you with exercises on day one. Now, go back to those parallel bars. If your shoulder's shot, how are you going to hold yourself up? But I'm going to find a way to do it. And I'm going to make it happen. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But I'm going to make it happen. Likewise, sometimes homework might annoy you. But in the long run, if I want to walk again, I got to deal with that pain. And if you want to have a really good life, you're going to have to do some schoolwork. You're going to have to be conscientious and do your work every day. And then the really cool thing is that at some point in time, you wake up and you go, man, I did it. I'm really successful. I remember my dad, when we bought the house we're living in now, which is not a mansion by any means. I remember, but it's very nice and has a built-in pool. And I remember my dad just leaning over, and he and I have a really hard time talking. We have a lot of issues, or we did have a lot of issues at this time. But I just remember him leaning over, looking at me, and saying, you did it. You really, really did it. And what he was saying was all the nights of homework. Well, he used to come home and find me passed out on my desk, falling asleep from doing homework late into the night. He's all of the college. I paid my own way through college. All of the work, all of the college. I paid my own master's degree. All of that stuff. It was a lot of money and a lot of work. He just looked at me, Albany State. He said, you did it. You really, really did it. And it was his way of saying all of that work, everything I did, every homework assignment, every late night, everything, all led up to that moment in time when I bought a house that a lot of people would say is probably the nicest house in the family. Now, I also rebuilt another house and sold it for $100,000 profit, which is where I got a lot of the money from. But anyway, all right. So I don't want you to think I'm walking around with tons of money. I'm not. I'm comfortable, but I don't have a ton of money. Now, state in the blank if this is same side or opposite side. Everybody, what is this? Same side. Good. Okay. Now, when they're on the same side, everybody, same operation. Alan, take a look here. You see how these 2X's and 3X's are on the same side?
Yep.
How many do I got? 5X. Now, you know the funny thing? On your paper, you didn't even do that one? And if you go back and you look at your upper right-hand question, question number 2, you had 2 N's and 3 N's and you made 5 N's. So look at that. 2 X's, 3 X's. Right? Same thing. Minus 1 equals, now, 5 plus 34, someone made a careless mistake, is not 29. The 5 and the 34, listen, this is really important. I just realized this. Maybe you did it opposites. You see how the 5 and the 34 are on the same side? You got to do the same operation here too. It's 39. Then add 1, 5x is 40, divide by 5, x is 8. Okay, now the last thing I want to do is go over number 5, and I saw that you guys knew that you want to multiply them. So it's 7 times 10 to the third times 7 times 10 to the 8. That almost looks like a negative. And first off, it says product, and we multiply. Stephanie, you added. You did 7 plus 7. Product means multiply. So I don't do 7 plus 7. I do 7 times 7, which is 49. And then you add exponents times 10 to the 11th. But at this point, I saw a lot of kids. Yeah. Marco, what's the problem with this?
Well, the number's not between 1 and 10.
Good. Now, the coefficient, if you will, is not between 1 and 10. So what I saw a lot of kids do is this. I saw a lot of kids take this answer, and then they just put a decimal here because they knew, hey, it can't be over 10. That's a nice step, but the problem is you can't just go changing answers. To make 49 into 4.9, I had to move that decimal, which means I needed to divide by 10. The minute you take an answer and you divide it by 10, you have changed that answer. So now you're wrong. unless you balance that out. So if I divide by 10 here, I have to multiply by 10 here, and that's to the first. So that means, again, I have to add exponents, and my final answer is 4.9 times 10 to the 12. And that's what I get. Okay? All right, any questions?
Nope.
All right, so that would be all of that work. Now, let's see, where are we here? I would rather skip today's homework, even though I have the answers already done, and go forward into the lesson. If we have time at the end, I will go back to the homework answers from last night. Okay, so, what do we have to learn today? What do we have to learn today? How to solve multi-step equations. That include what? The distributed property. If someone walks in the room and says to you, what are you supposed to learn today? Where do you always find that?
Do it top left corner.
In the box. Sometimes it's top left, sometimes top right. And I'll go you one step also. When you walk in the room, forget anybody asking you. When you walk in the room and you say to yourself, what did I come to school here for today? Why am I sitting in this math class? Don't say to yourself, well, because the schedule says me I have to. Michael? Say to yourself, look, I'm in here to learn this particular thing. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Now, as far as question number 1 from the do it goes, what's anything to the 0 power?
1.
1 plus 3 times a negative exponent. So that's 1 over 4 to the third, which is 1 over 64. So I got to do 3 times 1 over 64. Well, that's 1 plus 3 over 64, because 3 times 1 is 3, which is better known as 1 and 3/64. Okay? Now, you've done enough do-its in here and you've done enough homeworks to know that you're going to see a question like that on the next couple of do-its, and probably every homework for 2 weeks.
And probably every.
So I don't expect that to be an easy question. I expected a lot of people to miss that. But I do expect that from here on forward, you're in good shape. Okay, so the next one says, express the product in scientific notation. Okay? It's not the same because the exponents are changed. 7 times 7 is 49. That part's the same. Times, now add exponents. What's 5 negatives and 3 negatives? God bless. God bless. 5 negatives, 3 negatives. What do we get? 8 what?
Negative.
Negatives. Okay, so what's wrong with this answer right now? That's right, I gotta get 49 between 1 and 10, which means I need to divide by 10. God bless. But if I divide by 10 here, I have to balance that out by multiplying by 10. So my final answer is 4.9 times 10 to the negative 7. Listen, how many of you guys plan on kicking some serious butt on the state test?
I'm not taking it, sir.
All right, well, you can opt out. I have no issues with that whatsoever. You will not, listen, if it was my kids, I'd probably opt out too. So I will never get angry at you over that.
Why?
But here's the deal. I gotta tell you something. When I take a test, I get a little anger going on at the person who made the test.
Yeah.
My attitude is like, oh, you think you can make a test I can't figure out? I am gonna kick your butt
That's
on
why
this
I'm
test.
moving out.
That's very much what I figure. All states are doing this, it's not just New York. Now, so I got this set up, 4.9 times 10 to the negative 7. I'm telling you now, this is coming. On the first day of the state test 2 years ago, I didn't see last year's, first day 2 years ago, 7 questions out of 25 had to do with scientific notation.
Yes, you said nice.
So you have to be prepared for it. Okay, next up. Here are my 3 situations. And I'm not gonna do A or B. I'm going to ask you how you would do it. And then I'm going to do C, because C is what today's lesson is about. If you look at A, is this a same side situation or an opposite side? Everybody? Same side. So, Alan, what's 6 ends minus 2 ends?
Minus
Look at it right here. You're just gonna do what it says. 6n minus 2n.
4.
Good. Now, I also have to get my numbers together here. Positive 7 and negative 4 would be positive 3. Equals 15. And now we have the standard two-stepper that we can do. Taking a look at letter B. Everybody, is this a same side or an opposite side situation? Opposite. So what do we do?
Opposite.
Opposite operation. I would do the minus 2h, and I would go from there. Okay, so we just went over a whole bunch like that. I'm not gonna follow it through. You get it started in the right direction, you'll be okay. Now, let's take a look at letter C. This is unlike anything we've done before. However, yesterday we started talking about distributive property, and we did do some equations that had distributive property as part of the equations. When I see a 4 outside of parentheses and more than one thing in the parentheses, Alan, I always want to distribute. So what is 4 times 2x? Everybody?
8x.
8x. What's 4 times negative 3?
12.
Careful.
Negative 12.
Negative 12. Equals, now, this is the same side deal here, guys. What is 33 negatives and 3 more negatives? 36 negatives. Very good. Now it looks like the two-stepper, and I can proceed. This is where we send in the ground troops. 8x, die, equals negative 24. Divide by 8. X is negative 3. Okay? Any questions on that?
No, sir.
Okay. I'd like you, under today's lesson, I want to see everybody try number 1. All right? And then we're going to skip a couple and go forward. Actually, we'll do 1, then 2, and then we'll go forward. Michael, head in the game. Let's go. I see very little written on your paper.
Whoa,
Right? We want to, Marco, pay attention. We want to catch up, right? Come on, bud, you can do this. Push yourself through. I will guarantee you, you are not in as much mental pain as I was when I walked through those parallel bars at about 10 years old. All right? Yeah, I got hit when I was 7, and I started my surgeries when I was either 10 or 11. I can't remember. That's what's wrong.
Mark's message below to say nothing.
Huh?
Mark's message below, we can see
Is it more expensive to live in
Oh,
the city?
much more expensive.
We're going to penthouse.
Okay, hey, shh, look. First,
section
I distribute to 5. 5 times n is 5n. 5 times negative 2 is minus 10 equals, what kind of 25 is that?
8. Negative.
Don't lose track of that negative sign. Next up, again, very straightforward. Plus 10, plus 10. 5n equals negative 15. What's my last step? Divide by 5. And I get n is negative 3. So this is what we worked on yesterday, and we just repeated the skill, and we did it in the do it. When I see the number outside the parentheses, remember that word distribute. What did the word distribute mean? Remember I talked about Christmas time yesterday?
You speak, Mark.
What did we do with the presents?
Deliver them.
We gave them out, right? Gave everybody the presents. So I'm distributing here. 5 times n is 5n. 5 times negative 2. Now, on the next question, again, I see that I have to distribute. So, when I distribute, what's 3 times 3x? 9x. And what's 3 times negative 7? Negative 21. But, what do I have to do on the right-hand side?
Gonna add
Yeah, I got to do the same operation. I got to add them. What's 3 plus 3?
6.
6. Okay, and then I'm sure you could do it from there. Add 21 divided by 9. What I want to do now is skip forward to number 4, because this is a more challenging question, and this is really where we want to be with this. As time goes on, we combine more and more of these skills into a single problem. What do you think you're going to do first on this question?
You put a 1 in front of the others.
Okay, you could do that. It wouldn't hurt you if you did it. Listen, hold it. Hey, distribute to 3, and then add. Then you want to combine like terms or do same sign, same operation. All right, we got more of these coming tomorrow. I wish we would have gotten 2 minutes further along. I kind of blew it there. All right, hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta. Arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao, arrivederci, adios amigos y amigas. Cheerio, ta-ta, garushurus, sayonara. Cheerio. Yes.
Like, I just feel memory today. Can I have the package?
You know what? Stay right there. Don't move. I'm going to try to print one out for you right now. Yes.
I want to know what homework am I missing because they said
Look right on there.
Because they said I'm missing 3, but
All right. Find your name and then look at the top of the other page for the same columns, and it'll tell
I'm
you.
missing yesterday's.
And today.
in today, so